There we go. All right. Nice to meet you with you today. And thank you for joining my call. This should be a really good interview so far. All right. So, first things first, I'm gonna introduce myself. I'm Jalen Tyler. I'm an animation major at Sam Houston State University. This is my senior year, and I wanted to know more about the industry and see where you have been and what you've gotten into for your career wise. So, thank you so much for joining this call, and yeah, I appreciate you hopping on. So, thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here. And yeah, any questions I can answer. I mean, it's a bit different. It's a bit different now finding jobs in animation than when I was searching for a job, but I can help you as much as I can.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So, do you mind introducing yourself
Yeah,
for the people that don't know?
yeah. My name is Mark Anthony Austin, and I grew up in England, um, and started as a 2D animator doing the pencil and paper animation in commercials in London. And I came to the States when Lucasfilm offered me a job working on the movie Casper in 1994. And ever since then, I've been in the States and have made over 50 movies now. So it's quite a long career, 36-year career, but packs a lot into it. So
Yeah. So, I found out about your work from your TikTok because you post a lot of your previs film reels, and I got kind of excited looking at them. With that, your 36-year long career, what was your favorite particular piece to work on?
well, whenever anyone ever asked me that question, my answer was always Star Wars, A New Hope Special Edition, just because, um, as well as being able to do the creature animation, not Jabba, but all the other creatures,
Mhm.
I got to actually be in the movie as Boba Fett as well
Yeah.
for Docking Bay 94. So that was always my answer for years and years and years, for decades. But in 2024, they released Ultraman Rising on Netflix, and that 18-month project was so much fun, so much fun. It might be it might be my newest project because the one I'm working on right now is so fun to work on. It might knock that one off the top, but I would have to say right now, my answer is Ultraman Rising, which released in 2024.
Yeah, what a great film that was. I mean, I saw that the kaiju battles were cool.
Yeah.
It was just a good movie. Surprise from Netflix in general when I first saw that. So
I was
definitely
for
have
that
to.
movie. I got to do because you try and you want to contribute the most you can
Yeah.
and get the most animation scenes as an animator. But unlike movie, I was doing the previs. I was designing sequences, and I got to design 12 sequences, and I think there was only 47 sequences in the movie. So that's a quarter of the movie I got to design. So that's the hugest contribution I've made to a single movie. And as I said, it was fun to work on just because the crew was amazing and everyone just was there was no egos involved. It's hard to find an egoless project in Hollywood. There are too many egos in Hollywood, but on that show, everyone just checked their egos at the door and made the best movie possible. So that's why I chose that one.
Yeah. That was a great project. So for you, you said you started with 2D animation, starting off, and then get into the 3D aspect of things. How do you feel that transition was, especially for movies like Treasure Planet that you worked on? I know that you worked on CGI on there, but they were implementing both CGI and 2D together into one workspace. How do you feel
Yeah.
about that, and what's your thoughts on 2D work?
Okay. The 2D work, my 2D brain comes in very handy because the final results are still 2D. You're working in 3D, but film is a 2D media. So as much as we work in 3D, it's still going to be a flat piece of film at the end of the day. So I've always approached my 3D from a 2D mindset. And on Treasure Planet, it was interesting because the directors, Ron and John, were worried that the 3D wouldn't integrate well with the 2D. And so both myself and Oscar Uetebitskaya, who was the animation supervisor at the time, we had a meeting with them and convinced them that we wouldn't animate in digital on singles, that we would treat it like we did our 2D animation, and some stuff would be on twos, some might be on a pause for like four frames, but you'd get that texture of the 2D in 3D, and it would match. And so I think it matches pretty well.
Yeah. I thought the yeah composition together at first as a child I didn't know that was a CGI at all until I got older and then it gave me that Beauty and the Beast effect like that dance scene where I was like, oh yeah, this is CGI. This is it's pretty nice to see that work so well together, especially now because I know we're getting to that 2.5D area where we mix a lot of 2D films with 3D.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be an ongoing task for quite a while in the animation industry. I just love new styles, so it's glad to see that being something that's like first worked on.
Yeah. It was good with the 2D guys would give us Xerox copies of their drawings, and we'd scan them and bring them in as an image plane into Maya. And then our 2D Ben, our 3D Ben, sorry, we could turn his tech geo off,
Mm.
and the modeler had built 3D geo, but to make it look like a pencil drawing. And so we turn the real geo off and leave the pencil drawing lines on and print those out and give those to the 2D animators. So in a scene with where you have a 2D and a 3D character, whoever's leading the action goes first. So if Ben's pushing Jim, then obviously the Ben animator has to go first because his actions are affecting the other character. And vice versa, if the 2D character, I think Jim is frisking, Ben is frisking Jim at one point, and whoever's leading the action has to do their blocking first, and then swap their images with the other animator. But it was a very weird kind of roundabout way to work, but yeah, it worked in the end. Worked in the
Yeah.
end.
I mean, I think that's one thing with animation in general is that you kind of find new ways to do stuff that's not typically used just to make a final film. It's a lot of cheating, but we don't call it cheating that. But it's a lot of cheating trying to get stuff to visually appear to other people. So I know that's like a task that's always hard for animation.
Instead of calling it cheating, call it playing to camera. There,
Yes.
there, sounds better.
So for your career path, what would you advise new animators to start looking into to keep their career or get their career started in the animation industry?
I mean, there's a lot more competition now than there was when I started. Um, but I would say just to kind of hone your skills is to always kind of keep up with the other animated shows that are releasing, just to kind of see what they're bringing, because sometimes you get inspired by the work you see. So it's always good to reference what other people are doing with animation, but also it's as an animator, you really are studying how things move. Like that's your core job is to not just see how something will move, but imagine it and imagine it so well that you can replicate it, either 2D or 3D, in animation. And when you play it back, you can look at it and say, "Oh, that's looks too slow, looks too floaty. I need to speed that up." Or that looks too fast. I need to slow it down. But you have to kind of gauge what you're looking at with this whole appreciation of how things move. So, uh, not only is animation, composition and posing, but it's also married to that third thing, which is that appreciation and replication of physics and motion as it exists in our planet anyway.
And I think that's great for especially reference use. I know particularly using actual film of physical beings kind of
Yeah.
helps a lot with that. So
Yeah, you shoot reference of yourself, and I would advise when you shoot the reference of yourself doing the action is to not overthink what you're doing because if you think what you're doing, it becomes contrived. If you forget what you're doing and just do the action and then just see what you did, kind of like surprise yourself, say, wow, I didn't realize I reached that, did that when I did this action. In Treasure Planet, there was a scene. It was in the recording studio with Martin Short, who did the voice of Ben the robot, and the line was "Huzzah!" And when he did "Huzzah," his leg flew up, and it almost kicked himself in the butt. And I'm like, I'm gonna put that in the animation. And if you watch the movie, it's in there. But it's amazing what you see on reference. So if you want to be a standout animator and compete with the other guys that are all competing with you for the same job, just try and bring something extra. Like uh, a director might be expecting a performance from you, and if you can deliver that performance, but give a slight twist on it, like I said, like that leg flying up on the huzzah, or just something to kind of give it a little spark, then you'll do well against your competitors. So yeah.
thank you. And personally, I do want to ask the question of what essentially got you into this industry. What inspired you to want to start with animation? I know it's kind of different for a lot of people, but like,
Yeah, I mean, I always loved cartoons growing up. Cartoons, I as a kid, if there was a cartoon on the TV, then I was glued. I loved Disney movies. I loved Warner Brothers. I loved all the Tex Avery, Tom and Jerry's growing up. I loved all the Hanna-Barbera stuff that was on TV. So I was always drawn to animation, but I didn't think I could necessarily do it. I did used to get in trouble at school because I used to draw stick men on the corner, when you can flick your
yeah, flip the
book.
page.
I used to do flick books in my textbooks and get in so much trouble at school. But I remember my art teacher saying, you're going to get nowhere in this industry if you keep drawing cartoons. That was my art teacher told me that. I'd love to go back and tell her where I ended up and what I ended up doing. But yeah, I wanted to be a children's book illustrator originally. I didn't think animation was even something that was open to me to learn. And so when I went to go to college, they said, well, you can't just go for a degree in illustration. You have to go for a diploma first. So I went to community college and I got my diploma in general art. And at the end of the general art, they ask you, do you still want to be a children's book illustrator? And I said, well, I've always fancied trying animation because I told her about the flick books and everything like that. She's like, well, we don't offer animation. The only thing I can advise you is to do some storyboards, see if you can get into a college that will teach you how to animate. So that's what I did. I did two storyboards and I put them in my portfolio and took them along to the colleges and got accepted in both. So had a choice of which one I wanted to go to and happy with the one I chose. But that's how I started. I really didn't think like now with the internet and just information just being accessible at your fingertips on your phone, everyone knows about opportunities available to them. I had no clue when I was growing up. And so it's a bit of a surprise. So my path won't apply to people today because now you can do a great piece of animation. Like Jalen could do a great piece of animation and put it on the internet for everyone to see. But back when I was at college, you had to take a VHS cassette on the train, go into London, go to the studio, walk to the receptionist, ask her if you can leave it with her for a week and come back in a week and hopefully they've looked at it. So it's a much more there's much more opportunity nowadays for you guys to find jobs and also to show your work. So use the internet, use social media. That's going to get you your jobs.
Yep. The segue on that, I do want to talk about networking in the animation industry as a general. especially with using the internet to find up and newcoming artists or speaking to, veterans such as yourself of, trying to learn more about or getting into the industry. How would you say, how is important is networking in our industry?
It's super important, and I would advise anyone that's trying to seek a job in this industry is to really make a compelling and uh, flashy LinkedIn page. And on your LinkedIn page, don't waste your header. Don't put just like a single image of something you've done, something obscure, because no one's gonna really look at it that much. Try and put as much visual information in that header at the top of LinkedIn. On mine, I tried to fit as many film posters. Like I said, I've worked on over 50 movies. I think I managed to fit like 35 movie posters into my header. So when people go to my LinkedIn, the first thing they see is my header. They see all these movie posters and like, oh my God, he must have worked on all those movies, you know? So if you have a student film or if you're working on animation at home, put all your best work or images of your best work at the top of your LinkedIn page as eye candy so that people browsing will see it and be, oh, that looks great. Who's this guy? Or who's this girl? And then read further. So, like I said, use social media to death. Like this interview wouldn't have happened without TikTok. So
What, I,
I I got to thank TikTok for that,
yeah,
you know?
I gotta think it
So
like because finding your previous work was it was great. Like honestly, I haven't found something as someone as big as yourself in the industry that I could find without kind of looking up on the internet to see. And then honestly, you just popped up. Like
yeah,
I was just scrolling and one day because I look at a lot of reels in general. I saw your name popped up. I saw the movies you worked on. I was like, I love those movies. So I was like, I have to schedule an interview with you. That was just something I had to find. Because yeah, your work is amazing so far. I loved almost every single piece. There's like even Dinosaur back in 2000. That's
yeah,
insane to me because that's like one of Disney's first CGI full length films.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, when I grew up in this industry, I didn't realize how on the spear tip we were, like how like we were kind of working stuff out. We didn't know how to on Casper how to do lip sync. No other movie had done lip sync. So there was they split us into two test groups. There was a test group that put motion sensors around the actors' lips and recorded the data and applied that to the Casper rig. And then my group, I got paired up with a modeler. His name's Kyle Odermatt. He's like a big modeler in Disney now, a big supervisor there. He would model the shapes of Casper, like with a closed mouth, one with an open mouth, and then the computer obviously interpolate between the open and closed. And we were basically creating what ended up to be blend shapes. And now they call them blend shapes.
you.
At the time, we were calling them Casper shapes because we were working with just Casper. And as soon as Casper was finished and they had to make the same phonium or mouth shapes for the ghostly trio, it was like, well, we can't call them Casper shapes because it's fatso and stinky and stretch. Let's call them, we're blending between the shapes. Let's call them blend shapes. So we call them blend shapes. And so that's how on the forefront of technology we were. We were just literally making stuff up. There was no way of constraining when I started. You couldn't constrain one thing to another. If a character had to pick up a mug, you had to have two mugs, one that was parented to the character and one that wasn't, and do the visibility switch. There weren't dynamics, so the hardest thing to animate on New Hope Special Edition were the ropes that were tethered to like the dewbacks and the Wontos. It was just an FK chain with about 50 chains in it,
Oh
50 links.
wow. Yeah.
And it started, the chain started, I haven't got a dewback handy. The chain started below at the very end of the rain, at below the stormtrooper's hand, then went up to the hand, turned, went down over to the corner of the Dubak's mouth, and every frame I had to not just put the animation in the rope, but make sure it ended up at
Back
that
into
point in 3D space for every frame. It was a nightmare.
and you got to see like the software change in general, especially with Maya, and then people now using new software like free software like Blender and 3ds
Real.
Max. Just getting into how do you feel about the use of software, particularly?
I I embrace it. Anything that's going to make my life easier is I'm going to embrace it. So for the longest time, we had to deal with a thing called gimbal lock, which is when you turn something too far in 3D space, and instead of the computer turning it the way you thought, it'll go a kind of a weird roundabout way to get to that same place. Now in Maya, you have this great thing called the Euler filter or Euler filter that can, if your curves are messed up, you click that and it all straighten out. I would have killed for that back in the day. I would have killed for that tool. So, any of the tools that arrive or any of the dynamics that are available, I love those things and I embrace them. So, you guys are really lucky to have those tools at the beginning of your career. So,
Sorry, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited to use that software in general. It's particularly it's gotten a lot better finding tutorials and stuff like that of nature. And I want to ask you about your some more insights in the industry. I know we're moving towards the age of, automated systems such as AI. How do you feel is the best way to beat that, or utilize it?
well, and AI does some incredible things. I mean, as much as I would love to just hate AI outright, I can't because there's some things it does so well that are handy, especially when it comes to people that aren't great at writing like myself. But when it comes to animation, I don't think AI is ever going to replace the soul that you can put into your work. Um, there must be a reason why I get a lot of messages from people talking about Treasure Planet, how much they love Treasure Planet and the animation on it, and saying how much soul it has. And I don't think AI can ever generate that or replicate that human soul, you know? So it can come close. It's good for for showing something for like a concept. If you want to sell an idea, then it's great for like quickly generating imagery that you can kind of pitch. But for finished work, you really have to go back to having it driven by something human, to have those human values and for that human essence to kind of come through the animation and speak to the viewer. Otherwise, that's the only reason I can think that I get these messages because people have attached to that. There's something in the animation that they connect to mentally and spiritually, and it makes them feel like I want to watch this movie again, or I love this character. I want to see this animation again.
I
It
do
didn't do
feel
very well at the box office, Treasure Planet, but it's become like a cult classic now. Go on, sorry.
it's definitely one of my favorite films. I don't want to put that. It's just I don't know. It's though it's underrated. There's so much heart in that movie
Yeah,
from the
that's
beginning
it.
to the end.
Heart.
Like there's
You
so much
said it.
heart.
I don't
Mm,
think AI can replicate a heart. It can come close. It does a good job, but you know how you look at AI and something seems a little bit off.
yeah.
And I love behind the scenes imagery. I post on my social media a lot of behind the scenes imagery, and there's so much fake behind the scenes imagery, and you look at it and it's something that looks a bit off. And I'll post it, and then someone will point out, I think that's AI. And you look at it again, and I'm like, yeah, it is. It hasn't quite got the heart.
Mhm.
So AI, yeah, it's great, but I don't think it's going to give us people what they want or what they can get, through. human heart. I don't think it will replace that. What's your favorite thing to animate?
Particularly, ooh, I'm like on bone systems are crazy to me right now, but I do love character animation in general. Um, I think that backgrounds and I just love ambiance. Like if I find a bipedal rig, I do like to figure that out a little bit. Character animation is just fun. It's
Yeah,
such a special part of it. You always get to put yourself into that. I don't know. I
yeah,
think that's always something that people love is, you add something, either like a little small gesture that, probably you only do. And people don't notice that half the time when you watch like an animated film is that always there's always someone that's putting their little thing into it.
yeah. Well, I took my mother to see the premiere of Dinosaur. She was my premiere date, and for Aladar, because I was the supervising animator for that character, and there was so much Aladar footage because he was a hero. So I had six guys working for me, and uh, I was doing two shots a week, which was twice normal. Um, but I couldn't o overthink. Like I said, don't overthink your character, else it looks like it's been contrived. So I would do what felt most natural and tell my animators, make Aladar do this and act something out. And I took my mother to the premiere, and at the end of the movie, she just said, "That was I just watched you for 90 minutes as a dinosaur." Like she saw all those little things like your mother would do the same if you took her to see an animated movie where you were the supervising animator for the hero character, she would see you in your animation. And that again, that's the thing that AI couldn't do, wouldn't be able to do, I don't think.
Well, let's see. This has been a great interview so far. I want to thank you again. Um,
It's weird because I've been out of animation. I kind of left animation in 2009. 2009, 2010 went more into live action and in previs. And I love just animating previs because in animation in the industry, if you get a shot, you usually get the week to do it. So you get given the shot on Monday, you have until Friday afternoon, end of day to deliver that shot for approval. That's usually the timeline. But in previs, you have to do two shots per day, not 5 days. So in a week, you do 10 shots. And the greatest thing about if you do actually animate your previs instead of just doing stepped poses, is that you get so much practice for animating. Like, I don't think there's, I don't think there's anything I haven't animated to this date, apart from like maybe like the alien from Alien or something like that. But I remember when I was working on it was 300 Rise of an Empire, and the director said, okay, it's an up angle and the sailor is coming down and throwing up past camera. And I was like, yes, I've never animated someone throwing up. It was like joy because in previews you get so much practice. So it's weird now that I'm back in animation. 2020, I went back into animation with Netflix and now with Warner Brothers. Um, but it's weird taking that break from animated movies and working on animation for live action movies and animation that no one's going to see, you know.
yeah,
It's you're
but
animating what the actors are doing, you know.
you will know, you will
Yeah.
know exactly which part you do for that
Yeah.
previous film, because it's just like you're like I worked on that shot for so
Yeah.
long, and
But
now
that's
you
the
told
best thing
me.
about TikTok is I can actually show the exact shot. You know, I can say, you know, forget the rest of the movie. These shots I'm showing, these are the ones I did. So you kind of you spotlight those areas that you helped develop, you know.
How do you feel like the difference between working on previs and live action towards transitioning back to animation in general? Like is the flow like
It's a
A lot
different
different.
flow. It's a different flow. It's different production flow, obviously. Um, with previous for live action, previous for live action, it's a different animal because usually previous for live action happens before production starts. And so they want it like yesterday. So they're on you to kind of deliver that sequence as quick as possible. When you're on an animated movie, you're working on a previous, then once you're finished with it, it goes straight into rough layout, then goes into animation. So you in like a conveyor belt more. It's a different feel production wise. I feel it feels different.
Mhm. I mean, it would make sense, the workflow being a lot different,
Yeah.
changing different mediums in general. But no, yeah, like
I haven't got a favorite. I work I love working on either. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all animation anyway.
mhm. You're still doing the stuff, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you still get to work on your passion, and that's great. That's always, that's the
The,
thing.
the only difference, the only time you see a difference is animation when you're working on a commercial is a different feel and a different schedule to animation on a feature film, which is different to animation on a TV series. I worked on Blue Eye Samurai season two. Hasn't released. It comes out next year, I think. But that was crazy because, uh, like we just mentioned dinosaur. We're making 90 minutes of content, and we spent 3.5 years making it. Um, but Blue Eye Samurai, we're making 8 hours of content. There's 8 episodes an hour long. That's like that's like 5 movies, and they want it made in the same schedule.
Okay.
So it was crazy fast working. Um, and with a subject like Blue Eye Samurai, I wanted to be really careful because you want to honor season one and be as careful as you can and bring as much artistry and aesthetic to it as you can. But it's such a crazy schedule. So that is something to be prepared for. Wherever you slot into in animation, commercials, TV, movies, it's going to have a different production feel and sense, depending on which one you're in.
Thank you on that. That's actually good insight. Especially with us trying to work in different industries in general. Um, I mean, you kind of got me excited for looking into previs work. Because I haven't seen it before. Generally found a previous artist before, and that's crazy because that's more than just animation in general. That's
Yeah,
also a broad work of film, commercials. Even like small subject matters. Like I heard Oscar has previous works, which is amazing to me.
the
The
the biggest difference between working as a finals animator and a previous animator is that as a finals animator, you're given shots, and um, but you're really working on single shots. And in previs, you're working on sequences. So I always describe it like as the finals animator, you're working on trees. As a previs animator, you're working on the forest. So you're looking at the forest, not the single trees, and you kind of work down into shots. Whereas in shots, you have just that shot, and your job is to make sure it flows into the one after it and it flows out of the one before it. And, it's that link in the chain. Um, so I fell in love with that bigger scope of previous. So even though I'm back in animation, I'm not back in finals animation. I'm back in previs in animated movies because I love previs. I love designing big chunks. Like it was great to say, "Oh, I did that shot," and then my mom would be like, "What? That? Oh, it's gone now." Been on for 3 seconds. So, but now I can say, "Oh, I worked on this sequence," and it plays for almost 5 minutes maybe. So for me, I just found it much more rewarding, and because I understand everything that follows, because I've done that job, I've been the finals animator, so I know what they need, I know what they want, And so it's made my work more valuable because it it's it's stronger. It works. It gives the everything that follows what they need, you know.
You know? I mean, that's a great thing too, because yeah, now you have like a full sequence you can say, like,
Yeah.
look at this, and it's going on for a duration. Because 3 seconds in animation may sound like, oh, just a little tiny bit, but that's so much work. That's so many frames.
72 poses, you
It's,
know?
yeah.
So,
And you're doing that in a short time frame in general, so that's
yeah.
amazing.
But I do love, I mean, the thing that probably you love as well is that, you know, with the character animation is that seeing it play back and it suddenly has a personality and
Mhm.
it comes to life.
It feels like a
And
child. Like
yeah, that,
essentially, it feels like, oh, I just, I'm like Frankenstein, or like, and I just made my monster. Like,
yeah, but you know, Jalen, what they say, or what they said to me when I first started in animation, they said, as an animator, you have to be prepared to kill your baby. And what that means is that even though if you're making an animated movie for yourself, then no, that doesn't apply. But usually I'm making a piece of animation for a director and it's for him or her and it's their vision. I'm trying to give them their vision. So if they don't like what I've done, I've got to be ready to reject it and
mhm,
start over or change it. And so for that reason, it sounds harsh, but you have to be prepared to kill your,
kill your
because
baby.
like I said, it feels like your baby. Yeah.
Well, we're slowly running out of time, but I want to thank you again for, getting on this interview, telling me all this stuff. This is great insight, especially. I want to thank you for the work you've done, especially. And before you leave, do you want to plug any of your work that's coming up or any new
Yeah.
projects?
Yeah. I can mention the project I'm working on now, even though it doesn't come out till probably end of next year. Um, but I'm working on an animated feature. It's an adaptation of Dr. Seuss's "Oh, the Places You'll Go." So yeah, that I'm working on that for Warner Brothers, and I'm hoping that so far it's looking really, really good. So, and as I said, it might take the top spot as my favorite movie to work on just because I'm having so much fun working on it. So, if this keeps up, then it might steal the spot from Ultraman, but that's it.
Yep. And also I will probably put it in the link or my bio or when I send this in, but I want to make sure I get your LinkedIn and your TikTok, or if you want to say that for
Yeah,
the
yeah,
people.
yeah. You can put that on there, but yeah, anyone can find me on social media as Boba Fett ANHSE, and everyone says, "What does the ANHSE stand for?" And it's because I used to sign as Boba Fett, but they used to get me to sign Boba Fett from New Hope Special Edition, and that was fine, but I had to do like 700 of these signatures, and so at the end of it, I was like, "Can I just abbreviate it to?" Boba Fett ANHSE. It stands for A New Hope Special Edition, and that'll describe which Boba Fett I am, and that's where it came from. So my social media is all Boba Fett ANHSE. That's where you can find me.
All right. Again, thank you so much. I hope to talk to you again, especially with
Yeah,
your work and your work is amazing. So we're gonna get into that. But just again, thank you so much for getting on this. This means a lot to me. So thank you.
thank you, sir.
You have a great day. I'll talk to you again.
Okay, see you till
Yeah.
next time.
Till
Bye.
next time. I'll figure out how to.